Tony D and Little Joan here with a Screenwriter's Rant on Black Site, the movie. For those of you who don't know what a black site is, it is an extrajudicial jail, I guess you might say. A place where they hold terrorists illegally against international law, against American law. I'm very much against black sites, but this movie does look like a pretty cool actioner, I guess. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Please check out my books. Links in the description. Comedy Horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys. Books 1 through 8. Available now. They're buying them, Joe. Thanks to you and your cute little face. All right. So this is the terrorist. I don't know what organization he would be from. Normally, which country are we talking about here? Is the IRA back in business? This guy I've seen in movies before. I can't think of his name, but this woman's the main character, and she is a spy analyst, intelligence analyst, and they capture the world's most dangerous man, the world's most dangerous terrorist. And they lock him up, and he gets out like Hannibal Lecter, basically. You know, he causes a thing, and then somehow disguises himself, and then he frees all the other prisoners, and they're all terrorists too, and apparently very capable, and haven't, they're raring to go after being tortured for God knows how long. So she locks down the place, and then they put an artificial time limit on the whole movie, saying, we don't get control of the place and send the signal, a drone comes in and wipes us out. Now, look, I think this movie is totally unrealistic, although I know a little more about this stuff than the average person. But that being said, I could see the screenwriter putting the chess moves together as best he can. Written by Jinder Ho. That's an interesting name. Directed by Sophia Banks. So it's Jason Clarke, Michelle Monaghan, and Jai Courtney. Black Site. Yeah, I'm just, from a realistic standpoint, I'm not buying any of it. All right? Just not buying any of it. Black sites are terrible things. And you get into a black site, they can do whatever they want to you, basically. There's really no rules. There's a lot of shenanigans going on. And what I dislike about this movie is it's kind of the creative equivalent to legitimizing black sites, which should never be. It should never be. This is what they did to the 9/11 suspects, I'll say. Not all of them necessarily were on the plane or part of it, but they scooped up a bunch of people in Afghanistan. Some of them probably very guilty. Some of them probably just being turned in for the reward money, or settling scores amongst the various warlords of Afghanistan. This kind of just puts a, what are you doing? Just sit there. This kind of puts a polish on that, as if, oh yeah, this is a regular thing. The black site. Oh, I went to black site. Oh, how's working there? It's 9 to 5, and we torture the prisoners, and then we go home. It's messed up. The whole concept of it is messed up, which is why it's such a struggle to make the terrorist as bad as he is. So he's not just a terrorist. He's like some kind of super terrorist who not only knows, political stuff and planting bombs, but he knows like everything, and he can knife fight, and they kind of really map him out more like a serial killer, like he took a knife and filleted people or something, and his code name is Hatchet the terrorist. Yeah, I know all these Middle Eastern countries are full of guys named Hatchet. And it's not just in Middle Eastern countries. The whole term terrorism is really a word that it means whatever you want it to mean. So I'm not liking the entire premise of this movie. Now, that all being said, if this was a dystopian future and these were the workers, you could make this movie work. You could make this movie work. Your moral compass is kind of like all over the place, but you know, and your lead doesn't scream terrorist to me. Not in the recent years. I mean, um, so it just it reminds me a little bit of 24, the TV series. In that 24 was like that too. It was all gung ho about terrorism, and we're gonna make us always to be the good guys. It's not a good thing to torture people and put them in a extrajudicial prison. Anything you could list as terrorism is illegal. Blowing people up, killing people, taking them hostage, running guns. That's all illegal already. You don't need special level of laws to say, oh, now terrorism. You just don't. I know I'm off in politics, but it impacts it because the movie makes all these assumptions that just simply aren't true. The movie makes, you're putting characters in as the good guys, not perfect, but good guys, as the people who do this stuff. Okay? And no, we all know these people are guilty. That's part of the problem with this whole idea of a black site. Those people haven't been tried. They haven't been tried in a court of law. So, innocent until proven guilty. Oh, but you're going to take them to a site and grill them because you know they're guilty. How do you know exactly? Now, you might have the evidence, in which case, what's the problem taking them to a court? I mean, this stuff's illegal all over the world. It's not just illegal in the United States to blow people up. It's illegal everywhere. So, I don't know. Sorry to get all ranty. First act, they capture this guy, who they call Hatchet. Oh, he's a very scary terrorist. And they take him to the black site. And they establish whatever the hell that is. It's out in the middle of nowhere. Usually it's in another country like Afghanistan, although not now. I don't know where this is. Looks like maybe Colorado. So they take him out there and see, oh, what was that? Was that a pool table? Look at this. Yeah, it's been a hard day of torturing people. I think I'm going to get some pool in. Let's play a game of pool and relax. So they put him in the black site, and she wants to question him, and I don't know, she's trying to unravel a mystery. It's probably personal. Someone she knew was killed by this guy, and they get into fights about what to do, and then at some point they get him in a room, and he escapes. He kills a guy. They rush him to the emergency room, and for some reason they don't have a gazillion soldiers working here, like in every other military installation. And he manages to kill them. They're working on a guy, gets away, somehow hacks into the system, frees all the other prisoners. Somehow they don't have control over that. Somehow they can't just lock him in a room. It doesn't really make all that much sense. But if you can believe it, sure, okay. For movie stuff, sure. So then it's a cat and mouse game in the prison, plus this artificial timetable. The drone's coming in an hour. We got an hour to get rid of him, or we all get blowed up. And so it's nothing but hand knife fights and people looking grim, pointing guns, and finally, at the end, they trap him inside, I think, and let the place blow up. And then, Hatchet's dead. But at what cost? And everybody looks very solemn and glad they killed a terrorist. But again, the problem with these sites is they have guys who they can't prove they're terrorists. They don't know. I mean, one of the guys who was in Guantanamo, he was the chauffeur for Osama bin Laden. Now, maybe he's guilty of some crimes. And I don't think the guy driving his limo was the guy necessarily wiring up bombs or, dropping off money. Sure, he's in the organization, probably has his hands dirty, but, to throw him in Guantanamo and torture him, that's, it's excessive. And it's created nothing but problems for our image abroad. It's a disgrace, Guantanamo Bay. An absolute disgrace. Is this movie a disgrace? Not really, except that I feel like it's attempting to legitimize this. I don't think the movie makers intended that. I think they're doing what woke Hollywood does. Oh, I don't know, what's popular? Hey, how about a movie called Black Site? Oh, what's that about? Oh, those black sites, they're the prisons overseas, they're full of terrorists, and then, we got a guy fighting a terrorist. All right, well, we got to have a terrorist that, our audiences won't get upset by and feel that we've offended people. Oh, no, right, sure. He'll be generic terrorist. This was the problem with James Bond. I pointed this out in my James Bond rants. In the old days, it was easy. It was like, oh, yeah, he's Russian. He's a Soviet Union guy, a spy, or whatever. Now you can't do that. That doesn't hold any currency today. So who are terrorists? Well, some terrorists are from certain countries. Actually, they technically have them in all countries. But in Hollywood, they only want certain people to look terroristic. And they want certain people to be heroes. So this is what they do. And in that process of trying to not offend anybody, they make the movie totally unrealistic. There would have been nothing wrong with making this a realistic movie and having a protagonist who's torn about what she does, and having a Middle Eastern terrorist character. It would have at least been realistic, and you could have some other Middle Eastern guys to balance it out, so you're not just saying, "Oh, the Middle Eastern guys aren't terrorists." You get, you have some, her second in command's like a Middle Eastern guy who's American. Like, I mean, there's ways to do it. You don't have to make it so blatant that it's just like, what terrorist group is this guy from? And yes, there are terrorist groups in, let's say, European places of the world. But which ones are at the top of the list right now? Well, you have only to look for what's going on in current events. And that's what Bond used to be. It used to be kind of current, because it was about the Cold War, and the Cold War was going on. Now you've got stuff going on. It's just not current. They're avoiding it. And that's the problem with movies like this. You can't avoid that and make this movie good. Now, you could have made the guy Ukrainian. Maybe he is. Or Russian. But, it's still a tough sell. Like, how do you tie in the events of what's going on in the Ukraine and Russia with putting him in a black site and, making him a threat to America specifically? It would normally be way more complicated than that. It would probably be something in which we are backing certain terrorist groups, and our enemies are backing certain terrorist groups, and they're fighting each other. And I mean, that's where Al Qaeda came out of, right? So, anyhow, sorry to get into the politics. Would I see this movie? It feels like kid stuff to me. It feels like they're not really taking a risk here by talking about real things, and this movie sort of hinges on that. So I don't think for me, it's not going to work. For somebody who doesn't really know this stuff and can accept this stuff, I guess it could work. I guess. But I think it's not a good idea to gloss over the whole idea of a black site. Now, maybe the movie makers don't do that. Maybe that's something in the script, but I'd have to see it. But because to me, it's got such an unrealistic presentation, I just wouldn't watch it. Anyhow, that's me, Tony D, little Joan, sitting in my lap, being a pill. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for even more base takes, if you could believe it. will see it in the next one.